Welcome into Yankees Unloaded. I'm your host, Gary Sheffield Jr. As you guys can see, no Jake Ellenbogen today. He's actually moving. He's in the process right now. He just moved in today. Good news there is that he's not going to have his Fred Flintstone Wi-Fi. So we've got some bright news there. But anyways, we had a bludgeoning today, a 7-2 Orioles win over our Yankees. Very disappointing. I think a lot of us were expecting a lot more from our offense. Maybe a pleasant surprise for Baltimore as far as what they did on the mound. Kyle Bradish was excellent today. We'll get to it. But Carlos Rodon thought he had excellent stuff. He went 4 full innings, 8 hits, 7 runs, 6 earned. Again, really good stuff. 6 Ks, didn't walk anybody, but he gave up 3 homers. That was the difference. Kyle Bradish, 4 2/3, 4 hits, 1 run. Like I said, excellent. Just 2 walks. And given the fact he had 2 walks is really good given his stuff today. Just absolutely nasty. ERA creeping under 2 now. Didn't give up a single homer. Overall, Anthony Rizzo, top of the third, RBI single. And then we had Ryan Mountcastle with his 5th homer of the year. He's just been killing us. Jorge Mateo hit his first, former Yankee. Ryan McKenna hit his first homer of the year. Mountcastle again in the bottom half of the 5th. And then, of course, the backbreaker, Jordan Westberg with the 2 RBI triple, and then Jorge Mateo with a sac fly to make it 7-1. Game's pretty much over by that point. And then Gleyber Torres with a solo homer in the top of the 6th. Was about as useless as the latest edition of the iPhone. So where do we go from here? What do we make of this series? And I know a lot of people want to make harsh judgments. Our offense stinks. Our pitching is excellent. What do we do? What is the problem? Where's the solution? And I think that we just need to get into the meat and potatoes of this show and where our heads should be at. And I think right now we need to mention who's responsible for what needs to change. And instead of just this broad answer to these questions, because a lot of people are just saying we just need to hit more consistently. I think it's deeper than that. I think that there's some guys who are outputting certain performances that we frankly are not holding them accountable the way we need to. And we're going to bring it up today. Gleyber Torres had his 5th error today. We're talking about a second baseman who, of course, is known for his bat. He was swinging a really hot bat at the end of April. He continues. He's probably going to swing a hot bat into May. Always does. Jake's brought it up in a few shows that Gleyber Torres is just a show this month. And he's got to be serviceable defensively. He has not been. We're talking about a guy who is in 4th place in errors in all of baseball, not just the American League. It's not good enough. I understand that there's certain players that have a certain strength, their bat, of course, and hitting is the hardest part of baseball, but you also got to bring it on the other end. We can't make excuses for these guys. They have to be serviceable. They have to get it done on the other end. You mentioned, I didn't mention Aaron Judge. You noticed it was a no-show today. He did nothing. And I thought it was very interesting watching this game and listening to David Cohn, who brought up a really good point I would just say in the moment. He mentioned that he was mentioning that Aaron Judge had a really good take in this one spot. It was a Kyle Bradish power slider. Now, that was a pitch that was working all day. It was nasty. And it was a good take. But he brought up the fact that if Aaron Judge is going to hit, he's going to have to understand that he needs to command the strike zone. And I found that interesting because the very next pitch, fast forward 1 pitch of the game, and he's swinging at a 4-seam fastball at his neck. Aaron Judge is 6'7". Okay. That's not going to work. And everybody knows, everybody watching the show, everyone who's ever played the game ever knows if you swing at pitches outside the zone with any consistency, you're not going to be good. It does not matter what you did in 2018 through 2023. Irrelevant. If you're not swinging at strikes consistently in 2024, you will not be consistent. It doesn't matter if people think he's unhealthy. It doesn't matter if people think he's healthy and just not playing well. You are not going to be good if you swing at pitches outside the zone. And again, I get it. Bradish was throwing a power sinker today. A lot of hitters, you saw it with Soto later in the game. They're looking for sinkers up in the zone so they can do something with it and not put the ball on the ground. So maybe Aaron Judge swung at that pitch expecting a sinker, but part of the reason that you're paid what you're paid is that you recognize those type of pitches. I get it. Much easier said than done. But again, it has to get done if we're going to beat teams like Baltimore. And then overall, this lineup, because this is going to be a short show, I want to make sure this is short and sweet. This lineup did nothing, not just with Bradish. We had 4 relievers out of Baltimore, 2 of which had an ERA over 4. One of those guys had an ERA over 10. They threw basically perfect baseball until Gleyber Torres got up there and hit a solo homer. That's unacceptable. It is a lack of adjustments. And this is where I transition those lack of adjustments as the last point I'm going to make about this team. This team is too focused on umpiring, okay? The home plate umpire, who was it? The home plate umpire was Dan Lasagna. He was horrible today. Terrible, okay? He was bad, not just for the Yankees. He was bad for Baltimore. He was not good. And if you look at Baltimore's at-bats, Baltimore didn't hit early in this game either. But one thing you'll notice is when the Yankees broke this game and had 1 run in the 3rd inning, you said, okay, Baltimore answers in the 3rd. Well, that's when in the game, Baltimore made their adjustments. They scored 2 in the 4th, 4 in the 5th inning. They made their adjustments. We didn't. Okay. They took away the outside part of the zone. You saw where with Carlos Rodon, he had a power fastball today, had really good stuff. Baltimore took that away. That was their adjustment. And eventually they started getting cutters on the inner half of the plate because Rodon recognized those adjustments and he ended up giving up homers. That is how championship baseball is played. If the Yankees want to win a title, which I would assume they do, I would assume Aaron Boone does. He wants to lead this team to a championship. Well, guess what? These hitters have to make adjustments and they can't just be looking at who's umpiring back there. And we have to stop making excuses as to why they're not making an acceptable job and why they're taking the bat out of our hand, because they're not. Most of the time, unless you're talking about a singular incident on a singular call that changes the outcome of a game, when you're talking about consistent calls over the course of the game, at some point or another, there was an at-bat that actually stood out in this game. It was with Alex Verdugo. I know he's just back off paternity leave, but he was essentially complaining about the zone the entire at-bat. We're talking about he was in a 2-0 count. This is a hitter's count. And with a guy like Kyle Bradish, who's got a four-seam, he's got a sinker, power slider, he's got the overhand curveball. In a 2-0 count, you should be looking to do damage. And he gets a pitch that otherwise, in my opinion, was probably a ball. And from no point after that call was he not thinking about the umpires. If you watch the game, you can tell the entire at-bat was consumed by the type of job he thought the home plate umpire was doing. It doesn't work. Make an adjustment. And again, swinging at pitches on the corner all game is very difficult. But if there is a specific spot that a pitcher is going after, one after another, and they are calling it, you need to make an adjustment. Make them beat you another way. Baltimore did that today, and we paid for it. We absolutely were bludgeoned today. So that's all I've got about this game. Very tough seeing that happen to our Yankees because, again, like we've got a Detroit team who we're going to go see at the stadium tomorrow, and they're swinging a hot bat. They're scoring runs. A lot of times in the American League, we saw some of these young teams like Detroit last year. They were not good. We wanted to go in with some momentum, maybe even walk out of here in a 2-2 split with Baltimore, but it just didn't happen. Baltimore now has a lead in the division, but a lot of baseball to be played. And, hopefully the Yankees can understand that they need to take a look in the mirror and make adjustments. I cannot give Aaron Judge a pass with the whole injury concerns and everybody guessing what's wrong with him. We have to, unless told otherwise, we have to assume he's healthy. We have to assume that he doesn't need to be moved in the lineup and be protected by a Juan Soto. We have to trust that a guy that we signed for $360 million is qualified and can get out of this situation that he's in right now, because the Yankees need his bat. When the 3 hitter's not hitting, you are not going to score runs consistently. I get it. You can look around and say, well, Gleyber was cold and this guy was cold. When the 3 hitter of any lineup is hitting 197, which Aaron Judge is hitting exactly, no team is going to score runs. That's the way it works. So we've got a game tomorrow, Marcus Stroman on the mound, and we got to see what the bats do. Aaron Judge has, at some point or another, we've got to start circling his name on the calendar. And we have to say, what did he do today? Consistently, not, oh, Juan Soto re-sign the guy and bring the focus on someone else. No, no, no. What did the captain do to provide wins that day? And again, I'm a bigger fan of Aaron Judge than I think most people realize. I could not root for somebody harder than I root for this guy. But when he's not performing, I can't make excuses for him on this show. I'm going to cover what he does, and I'm going to cover what he doesn't do. Right now, he's not doing much. So, of course, when you're talking about a guy who's DHing, you've got to hit. We've talked about it with Giancarlo Stanton. He's taken up the DH spot. He wasn't hitting there at the beginning of the year. We covered him, right? We critiqued him. We didn't go easy. He started swinging a hot bat. We started covering him more favorably. We want to do the same with Aaron Judge, but he's got to put it up first. He's got to put up those numbers. It can't just be for a game. It's got to be for multiple. And most importantly, guys, this is the last thing I'm going to say. It's got to be against the teams we need to beat. The Baltimores, the Houstons, the Dodgers, those teams, those big teams with big arms on the mound. Aaron Judge has to come to play. So if you guys like this episode, please like this video. Please subscribe to Yankees Unloaded. It's on all platforms, and follow me at Gary Sheffield Jr. and Jake Ellenbogen, who will be back later today at JK Bogan on all platforms. Appreciate you guys.